In this video, I'm gonna show you guys how I made over $62,000 profit trading Bitcoin in under 1 month. I'm gonna talk about the approach, the mindset, and the strategy that I had to perform this. Some of you guys may have seen some of my other account flip videos on some smaller accounts like the $7,000 flip or the $2,000 flip. Some videos on my channel I have me showing smaller account flips with a couple $1,000s in an account. And I've talked about on those videos how I've done bigger account flips, and I've done even bigger account flips than this one. This isn't my biggest one. I'm gonna show you one of my biggest ones in another video after this, but this is a bigger account flip to give you guys an idea of what I talked about in some of those previous videos. As you can see, I started the account with $40,000. So $40,000, that's a pretty large amount to be starting an account with, especially when you're trading more aggressive or at high risk. But when you're trying to flip accounts, there's a mindset and approach behind it. I find scalping is really good, or day trading in the beginning, to build up some profit and use that profit for risk. Now, this is not financial advice, guys. This is just for perspective, because this is what I do. This is my mindset behind it. I like to scalp at first to build up some profit, get in and out of trades quickly, so I can use that profit to now find longer trades I can hold in a trending direction. A trending direction is gonna be key with this, because we're gonna talk about something called seasonality, or monthly returns with Bitcoin. Seasonality is an important topic or concept in any market that you really need to understand, whether it's gold or Forex pairs or even crypto. I like to just focus on Bitcoin when it comes to this, because I think Bitcoin personally is the best and the strongest crypto when it comes to really its holding power. And when you measure it over time, it really respects the cycles and a lot of the seasonality, especially within the 4-year cycle. We're gonna talk about seasonality in a little bit and some of the mindset of doing these bigger flips in a shorter period of time. Whether it's $40,000 to $100,000, or whether it's $100 to $200, guys, you gotta get good at increase of capital. It's within the skill set and your experience, right? I wouldn't start at trying to do these types of bigger flips like 40,000, 20,000. I would start at a smaller balance, and I'm gonna talk about that maybe a bit more in this video later. Let's get to what seasonality is and understanding monthly returns on Bitcoin, and what I did to do this, and maybe my mindset before, because when you're doing flips like this, you have to have a plan beforehand. You have to have an idea of where the market's gonna go and what the market's doing beforehand, and have a plan of approach beforehand, because it's about analyzing the risk and willing to accept the risk of your strategy ahead of time, so you have no fear when you're trying to do bigger flips like this. Now, this is a bigger flip to a lot of you guys. You guys might be looking at this like, dang, $40,000 to $100,000, that's quite a big flip, right? In a short period of time. I don't have $40,000. Exactly. You're not trying to do these flips in your first year. After 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years of trading, you could build up to this, right? In the beginning, you have to start small, right? This is not your goal in necessarily the beginning of your trading. You got to start small and gain that confidence and the skill set. We're going to talk more about that mindset at the end of this video. So what this shows is a monthly average. I want you guys, for instance, to look at the month of February. I want you to look at February here, so we can get an understanding of what this chart means. Because if you look, this chart shows us information and data from 2013 until now. So if you look at the month of February, well, there's one thing I noticed about the month of February, for instance. There's more green boxes than red boxes. So what that means, since 2013 till now, February has only seen 2 months where the market is red, where the market is negative, or let's say where the market has a return that is not positive. So it's bearish that month, more in a downtrend, to simplify it. So February has only seen 2 months in its history where the market has had a negative return. This is what we mean when we talk about seasonality. This works in Forex too and on gold. When you look at the month of February, you see more months where there was a positive or an uptrend in the market. When we look at Bitcoin on a bigger picture here, there's months like October, for example, that is pretty much like February. When you look at October, and that's the month that we're on as I'm recording this video, October has also only seen 2 months in history where the market has a return that is negative. So that's when we talk about seasonality. Let's look at November as well, because November is where I actually capitalized more on this strategy. October going into November, I was thinking the market was gonna go up. That's the time that I was buying Bitcoin and trading this account on, was October going into the month of November. And I'm gonna show you guys on the chart, and you guys can do this for yourself. You guys can go to the charts and mark up the months and see how price behaves and how it is impacted in those months. So what I was strategizing before I even deposited into the account, before I even was taking the first trade on this account, I had a plan. I had a plan of approach. Now, $62,000, is that a lot of money? I think it's a good amount of money to make in 3 weeks. I used to have to work a job, and I used to go to that job 12 hours a day and make $28,000 a year. And then at one point I was making about $30,000 a year, but I still had to work more hours. I had to work overtime to get there. So I look at how fast did I make the money in, right? Was it 3 weeks? If I take $1,000 to $3,000 in 3 weeks, in 2 weeks, in a week, it's a good return. I talked about that in the other video. Go listen to how I talk in this video and go watch the video where I flipped the $2,000 account. You're gonna see me talk the same way. Smaller balance, bigger balance, I'm gonna be talking the same way in the videos, right? It's all about the plan of approach. If I take 2,000 to 5,000 in a week or in a couple of days, it's a good return. It's an increase in capital. I wanna pay myself. It just depends on how much risk I'm willing to put at the time, what my starting balance is. This is not my biggest flip account, guys. I've done way bigger flips than this, okay? This is not the biggest one. So I want you to understand that too. I have small flips, and I'm gonna show you guys how I've done that and really just the thinking behind it, right? I think that's a lot of what it goes into. There's technical analysis, there's fundamental analysis, but then there's psychology in the market. I think psychology is the biggest thing, right? And I teach this every single day on my live sessions. You have to master the trading psychology and the approach. What is your plan of approach that you're gonna be doing? My plan was October going into November. I think we're gonna be going up. I know we're gonna be going up. Why? Because for 10 years, I've been on these charts and I've seen things, right? I've seen these historical patterns. I've studied them. I have an understanding of price, right? That's to simplify everything, but that might sound complicated. That's my brain just trying to simplify things for you guys, right? I got a lot of info in this brain that I'm trying to share to you guys, right? So let's go to the charts and look at Bitcoin on a seasonal tendency approach. How does it behave in terms of October, November? One thing you gotta study, guys, is the 4-year cycle. The biggest months are gonna be in the 4-year cycle. Every October, November doesn't go up. Typically, even after October, November, you go up. And I understood this. I understand this in the market. Some months can go down, and then we have after bullishness. Let's start on where the chart is right now, and then we're gonna rewind and take a step back on seasonality and look at it through history. Because that was just my plan that was my main plan of approach with flipping this account was, okay, we're going into October, we're going into November. I know what price does. I've seen it. I'm not gonna overthink it too much. I'm not gonna get fearful. I'm not gonna get emotional. I'm gonna just focus on patterns, historical patterns, right? Look at the current October, right? The current October starts here. Let me turn the crosshair on. There we go. Look at the current October. It starts here on this red line. Where we are right now, we've already seen a return in price. So when we look at just this October, easy buys this month. Literally, if we were to put a horizontal line here, we can look to the right here and see there's $60,000 right here. Price literally formed a support at 60K, bullish rejection candlesticks. Like, simple as it gets. Like, October's already been following seasonality. Pumptober, as we call it, Uptober, I mean. It's literally already returned almost 7%, above 6%. Look at, out of the years, there's 1, 2 that haven't. We're going into November. November's had some big returns every 4 years in the cycle. It's had some pretty big numbers have been seen also in October, November. Something to be aware of, because it's kind of around the corner too, when you think about the time I'm making this video, right? So let's go back to last year. Last year is gonna be something that you guys will see is interesting. So a year ago, October, November, and this is how you guys study it. Do what I'm doing. Go on the chart and literally like mark the months, like study things. How you're also gonna gain experience is literally when you're gonna be here for the next 5 years on the charts. As you gain experience and you see the months, think about it. I've been on Bitcoin chart for like 8, almost 9 years now. I've been on the Forex charts for 10 years. So like I've seen these months. So I've gotten an understanding of what to do. Let's look at last year, for instance. Last year's right here, October. How did October return last year? It started kind of small in the beginning. It was a little bearish in the beginning, middle of the month, runs up, kind of like we're doing right now. November's right here. So really, like anyone who just had a simple approach like I did in October, November last year, bullish seasonality, price usually goes up. Most people are fearful, right? Think about it. October, November rallies. So you have that seasonal approach. Let's go to the year before that. The year before that's really, really interesting because it comes when Bitcoin was done, the bear market in the 4-year cycle. So if you notice, there's 2 years kind of where we don't have a positive return. And these are like 4 years separated from each other. And even last October started kind of bearish, but still had like some bullishness to it. So like this one, when you look at this one, it's interesting how this October went up. It was a positive October. Followed its seasonality, but November came down, it just crashed. Interesting, right? When you look at the 4-year cycle and you study market phases, it's like the market's low at a time of fear here. Think about fear. If you know where the market was here on Bitcoin when it was around 16, 17,000, extreme fear. Just extreme fear was here in the market, right? There was October bullish, November dumps. And then what happens after November? It rallies up into December. After December, we start more bullish. So like, if you manage to gauge through this, right, and wait for this was a perfect time to buy because the market was extreme fear, right? And we're in a month like November where we usually understand, okay, seasonality, market usually returns positive. So the market had a rebound here and it was in a time of fear. And then it eventually picked back up after November. Let's go back and look at some other years, October, November, because again, my thinking with this strategy was going into October, November with seasonality, right? When you look at here, for instance, you have another month where October, November goes up. November didn't go up so much, but even October going into November, you gotta understand some of these points are different than others. The strongest ones are gonna be every 4 years. Generally, October, November can go up, but every 4 years are the important ones. Those are typically where you get the big pushes in the cycle. If you go back 4 years ago, for instance, then you look at October here, we push up into November, November goes up. This is pretty much like last year and this year. So let's look at this and compare it to last year and this year. What do we have? Right here, if you look, we have September. We have September's low here. We go into October. October actually stays above September's low. September has a positive return, November goes up. Let's go look at last year's price action real quick, a year ago. Or even let's go right here. Let's go look at 2021's price action. September's lowest point in 2021 was right here, September's low. October started here, it rallies up. Let's go look at last year's price action. So it's interesting how the market has this other tendency within September, October, November. If you look at last year's price action, September's low is going to be right here, where my crosshair is. October stays above it, we rally into November. Look at this year's price action. September's low is right here, the lowest point in September. October has so far stayed above it. We're rallying into November. If you go look at that every 4 years, or that, not even every 4 years, most years, you kind of see that. When you look at September's lowest point, October, it rallies into November. November can carry on. So with this flip, it was understanding that, understanding all that, what I just taught on the charts. It's understanding where we are in the cycle in the 4 years, and also looking at September, October, November. Understanding if you look at September, the lowest point it hits, when you look at the low of September, October generally stays above it, and we rally into November, and November keeps going. So it's understanding that type of pattern when you look at it on a historical point. With maybe not every year is it so perfect, but when you look at most years, it's there. You can look at the bigger picture, like I'm showing you guys right now. I'm going back to 2017, for instance. Right here, I'm at 2017. We have September's lowest point here. October starts. October stays above that, rallies into November. If I go back to 2016, it does the same thing. Let's go back here. Well, I'm a bit too far. You can go back on the charts and study this same concept. Go anywhere on the charts and study this same concept. Exactly what I'm doing right now. So, since I've been on the charts for so long, that was my strategy. It's really simple. Like, it's not a lot. Some of the bigger account flips I've done is literally keeping it simple like that. Like, okay, I'm understanding where we are in the cycle. So let's go look back at last year. And one more example of this to get an understanding of what I did and how I was trading here, right? To flip 40K to 100K, right? I'm looking at how much I withdrew in the amount of time, right? In a short period of time. So let's go back and look at the charts here and understand price one more time. So when you look at September and you have the lows, where's October? October is the red line. October rallied really strong into November. What did November do? November rallied really strong into December. So it was just following the trend, really following a seasonal trend. Do I trade Bitcoin all the time? No, I don't open accounts and trade Bitcoin like this all the time. I do it at the right times. I do it at the times where I know and I get signs and clues and evidence of where the market's going. What types of signs do I use? Well, people around me, the masses, economy. I use the news. I use Twitter a lot, Google search. There's honestly a lot of different factors that I use. Fear and greed, seasonality, and then cycles. Do I trade Bitcoin every month like this? No. Only in certain months in the bigger picture, right? I look at the 4-year cycles. I look at where we are in that 4-year cycle. Are we coming from a bearish market? Are we in accumulation growth stage? Are we in the bull stage, right? I look at where we are in certain bigger pictures of the cycle within 2 to 4 years. This was a good example of one of the years, and I've shown you already a couple years where literally the same strategy and approach could have worked. You just have to learn how to gauge things out, right? So do I trade Bitcoin like this all the time? No, I don't look to flip an account like this with Bitcoin unless it's involving maybe a strategy and thinking like this ahead of time. Thinking, okay, what are the masses doing? Are the masses out of fear? Are the masses at greed? What is everybody talking about? Are people talking about Bitcoin? Are people not talking about Bitcoin? Is it a hot topic? Where is the psychology of the market in the sense of fear and greed? and then where are we in certain months. That's really key to pay attention to. Because again, when you study seasonality, again, guys, just to give you a quick recap and simplify things one more time, a month like September and August, for example, when we look at those, what do you notice when you kind of put those 2 months together with August and September? If I go August, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 bearish months. But when I also include September in there, it's like, whoa, that time of the year, there seems to be more bearishness when we put the two together. Kind of like when we put October and November together. When you look at October and November together, there tends to be more bullishness with the two, right, jointed together. There's some months like August, when you look at August, August typically tends to have more of a bearish return. But look at July. July, we've seen some pretty decent numbers in July. Some come every 4 years in the cycle, or even in the growth stage. So if you study some of the videos, guys, this video is gonna go to the crypto playlist. If you haven't seen any of the other videos in the crypto playlist, go check them out, guys. I'll see you guys on the next video.